What is going on, everyone? So, I wanted to have a quick discussion about plugins. I'm doing this without showing my face because I haven't had a COVID cut in a while. Um, so, anyhow, my vanity is taking over here, as you can see. Now, what I'm showing is a screenshot just to represent the insanity that is I think is a typical list of plugins for any mid-level mix in, someone who's either producing or mixing or whatever. And I wanted to have a doc about there's a psychology of choosing and choices, right? And so one of the things that I think is going to make a lot of difference in, or that I feel makes a lot of difference in my mixes, I always have this, I always want to like, hey, I'm always trying to think of how to discuss things where I'm talking about myself rather than telling someone else how to do something because, I'm trying to not be condescending here. So my apologies. So what I wanted to do was to go through and just sort of take a look at why you would have so many plugins. Now, it looks like there's a ton of choices that are just completely arbitrary. Look, we have frequencies here, and then we have frequencies here. Why does that matter? Why is it, so one of the things that happens as you use these plugins, right now, I tend to have this thought process about the GUI of programs, the graphics user interface. And it's really important because when you make a move on one of these, either the virtual knobs, and this is a little bit, so if you listen to White Sea Studio, which is another fantastic channel, and White Sea, the host, he's fantastic, and he's got a lot of fantastic ideas and concepts, and he's very thorough, and so something like this, like he'd say, this is for the screws so that it can get held in place. And I totally understand the notion of having digital, you're on a digital piece of equipment. Why would you simulate, or what are you doing simulating a piece of analog equipment? You're basically just lying to yourself, right? But I think that there's a value. I'm going to disagree with him, and he's got way more experience, and he's more talent, he's got more under his belt than I do. He owns a studio. He does this. He makes his money with it. So that's, but one of the things that I think that's common amongst, I wouldn't say just the newbies, but I think is common with a lot of different mix engineers. When you start off and you see that you have all of these different options at your disposal. Notice I have the plugin bundle from Plugin Alliance, and they have tons of different alternatives, right? So there's tons. I mean, it's okay. So what's this one gonna give me that this one won't give me, or that this won't give me, right? And so, but to be honest with you, as I'm kind of going through all these graphical, sort of representations of these different programs that are all digital. There's aspects where I'm going to pull up a kilohertz EQ. There's times where I'm going to pull up an AMEC EQ. This EQ by Acoustica Audio is great. It's got a great resolution. It sounds really good. You go through the process of working with the plugin, and you sort of see, what does it do? What do I like it to do, right? So there's where the psychology comes into play. I gotta like that it does something, and I won't use it if I don't like it. So, which is interesting, right? If you're thinking, oh, well, it's just a tool, but you gotta like your tools. If you got a screwdriver with a crappy handle on it, you're not gonna like it, and it's not gonna serve you. It's not gonna have a good utility. So, sorry, this one keeps coming up because it's the I have the license on it. It's just it's not loaded yet because I'm lazy. But say for instance this so here's an EQ that's limited in scope because if you have say something like a FabFilter Pro Q or my favorite the Nova, which I wasn't able to load because I can't get to the screen. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, let me load the Nova because I got love for Nova, and I'm gonna use the free version. Okay, so you got a Nova here. I'm gonna put it in front of Pro Q because I'm like that. So you've got Nova, which has it's got a sweep. You're not limited to your frequencies, so I can put this frequency here and I can double up on frequencies if I needed to, right? Okay, so I have Nova, which gives me infinite flexibility, and then I've got limitations here. I have to choose from a shelf or a bell, or I have to choose from a wide or I'm limited to they overlap somewhat. I mean, this is overlapping here at 600 down to 600. So what am I talking about? There is this EQ does something that Nova, it just takes a little bit more dialing into Nova, right? Or FabFilter. Or what else do we got here? This does something completely different. So the OAQ neutron, right? So this is doing something. You can dial all this in. So in essence, there's something valuable to having multiple EQ plugins. Now, that being said, there's also value to taking one EQ plugin and being able to do an entire mix with just one EQ plugin, right? So you want to be able to sort of have that flexibility. Now, if you go through and have, sorry, I'm talking to you like, apologies. What I've, oh, this is impossible. I'm sorry. Okay. Going through, I feel like there's value in going through and being able to do everything with just one plugin, and then going through each plugin and doing the same thing so that that this Melda equalizer does a thing you like. I think that this has a very interesting workflow because it's got the way that it reads on the screen is just very interesting to me. You have the Q can widen, or it's just there's a way that it interacts with you that add some satch. It's got a reading over here that you can sort of you can do things with. So it's gonna have a different value than something where it's like, yeah, here I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna use my ears. It's not working because I think I ended up putting too many plugins and let me see if I can fix this in the moment. I'm going to mess up all of my my organization. It was so nice. My organization was so nice. Ah, come on. Where is it? Nope. And get the audio engine. There's just too many plugins that are open. Thing. Okay, so say for instance, let's see if this does. Okay, audio engine dropped out again. It's just because I have all these plugins and they're all doing the one thing. Oops. Trying to not so I can move these knobs. Anyways, all right, that's not. The main thing that you want to do is if you have something that's got a graphics interface, right, that is analog, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's gonna make you do a thing. It's psychological. And I think that the psychology of this is cannot be overlooked, can't be overstated. you're going to reach for a mag EQ for the airband. Why? Because everybody says that it's the best thing since sliced bread. Even though I don't agree, even though I think that there's a better EQ that gives you a little bit more of this. Which one? I don't know. Why don't you stick with the channel and I'll expose my secrets. But yeah, but realistically, like if you have you have this chop shop, I haven't been able to take this and use it really well because it does something that's weird. It does something different. It's not the same. So you want to see what does it do? You play around with it, give it the old college try. It does, just because you have an EQ doesn't mean that you can't take another EQ and, sculpt it out. I'm going to look at this like a Neve. This has I already like it because it looks like a Neve, which is stupid, I know, but at the same time, it just makes you reach for it for whatever that reason is. But if you use it, I'm talking to you again. Sorry. Conceptually, I'm thinking, okay, look, if I use this and I like it, then the next time that I reach for it, I'm going to have that psychological effect of that response of, oh yeah, this did this thing. This was really cool. And if I think that it's terrible, then I'm going to say, you know what, like I did with the mag. I've used this mag. Where is it? Where are you, little mag? So I've used mag EQ, and oh, you know what? I bet you this is killing it. The CPU. Watch. Did it work? All right. Nope. Anyways, so I've used this mag EQ, and I was like, going around, going, I can't hear it. I can't hear it. It's giving me too much. Ugh, I just didn't like it. I'm sorry. Apologies. If you have some of this stuff from Analog Obsession, I just picked up the Kush bundle. I wanted to give it a shot. It's $9 a month. Why not? 10, whatever. It's $10. I mean, this is a pandemic, sure, but I'm just, this is college. So I'm looking at this going like, okay, this is going to do a thing. How is this going to get me to where I need to go in a moment's notice? And you got to work with the stuff like, with that. It's not that it hasn't been said before because people say, know the tools. But I think what happens is that when I hear that, it sounds like people are saying, don't buy a lot of plugins. Instead use the ones that you have well. Yes, but that also, if you see that there's another plugin that's going to get you closer to, it's a workflow thing. You do it, you open up the plugin and it's going to have a knob that's going to do something very quickly. This fresh air is a very good example of it. You've got a mid air and you've got a high air, and it's going to give you it's the frequency balance of it is, it's going to shift. You have some trim because you're pushing up the air. How does this work with just, how do you work with it? And somebody's going to say, you know what, I don't like this. I rather take this different approach. And that works, and that's fine. That's interesting to me. This entropy EQ from Sonable, it's got a different thing than just graphic parametric EQ with shelves and bands and stuff. You got the entropy aspect of things, which smooths stuff out. It's just a different type of EQ. So it's gonna give you something different. The Elysia, right? It's got a different sound to it. I haven't used the Electra yet. This is a multi-band. And when I tried to use it, I've used multi-bands before. This gave me fits. I was like, what? How do you do this? But this is a very good example of, if you tailor this to if you figure out what it does, then every time you need to do the thing, you just call it up. Now, if that sags your system, or if if you have, too much choice. But see, the thing is that if I have if I have an emotional response, and going back to the psychology of things, if I have an emotional response to a plugin, I'm always going to reach for it. That's, so many people love working with ProQ because it does a thing very, very, it does it well. But I'll tell you what I don't like about it. I don't like that I have to, click on this, to hear, because if I'm moving around, I want to just be able to move around and not have to click something, right? Whereas with Nova, well, I guess I have to do the same thing too, as if you solo the band. But I could solo the band and then move it around, blah, blah, blah. And then fits it there. Let me see. Okay, so this does, yeah, but I can't move it. I'm just listening for the band. So you know what I'm saying? Like that to me that's compelling. That's a workflow thing that I think works better for me, because I want to see, okay, am I, what's the, what am I doing? Can I hear it? Blah, blah, blah. That to me, it's, that's a workflow thing. And this is a free plugin, versus something that costs a bunch of money. The way that you have to click to make it dynamic, which is this, you just throw a threshold and blah, 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 so it's that one little click, right? Because this one was like, you have to click and then you have a thing, right? This one, you just click and you're at the thing. Boom, done, So, when I started working on SSL based channel strips, the clickable, one of the things that I'm huge about is, if I double click on something, does it go back to its default? That to me is big. And it was one of the things I threw fits about on the Waves EQs, because you have to hold down Alt, which is, it's not bad, but it's just not something that I was accustomed to. I guess I got, from the Cakewalk software, you can click and you go back to the default, or double click, sorry. Whereas with the Wave stuff, you have to hold a key, and I found out that same thing with the plugin alliance stuff. You hold control and it goes back to the default rather than double clicking. But my finger's already clicking, so why do I have to touch another thing? Those things are massively, like, those are the things that I feel like people would benefit from thinking about and being very, particular about, like, what things help your workflow. If you have to click around in one plugin and you don't have to click around in the other plugin, why not? So yeah, there's a lot of analog modeling that happens in the plugins. I, for the longest time, thought that this Bax EQ was stupid. You're only giving me high and low. You're giving me the equivalent of, this and this, right? That's all it's giving me. But sometimes that's exactly what you need. So I'm not gonna, I won't overlook it now, because there would have been times where I was like, what I want to do, not necessarily a tilt EQ, but there was a time where I was like, I would like more highs and less lows. There's another plugin that does that well, that I think I looked at it as a saturation plugin, but it actually ended up doing some good. Let me close Millennia. And let's go to, get away. Let's go to the distortion. And yeah, so this Pre-X7. So this Pre-X7 by Audiority, it's awesome. It's a tilt EQ. You get, let's not make that dynamic. Disable. No, whatever. All right, so you get one of these, right? Depending on which way you go. So if you go bright, you're getting this. If you go dark, you're getting, maybe not this, but you're getting this, right? So it's the tone knob on one of those old radios that only had a tone knob, and it was either you're getting all bass or all treble. And I always set it to all treble because those speakers were horrendous and stuff. So here's an EQ that's embedded in a that's embedded in a plugin that has saturation, and it's great. It's great for that. Some of these EQs are going to be great for adding saturation because whatever the circuitry that they were based on is going to allow for there to be some kind of saturation in there. So same, and I'm talking about EQs here only because I saw that I had a long list of EQs, and I didn't even put all of them. I got as far as Pro Q3, and I didn't have room to stack all these other ones. But your Puig Tech, this Pool Tech emulation, and between that and the one from Analog Obsession, these are going to work differently. You're going to feel them differently when you listen. Feeling and listening is weird, right? But that happens, and you got to acknowledge that, so yeah, Sheps, this does a thing. It's got the saturation aspect of things, but it's also got, the 84, right? Oh no, 1073, stupid, 84. CQ. I thought that this was dumb when I first saw it. And now I'm like, this is super, it sounds good when I put it on, and that sounds good, makes me feel good, makes me go reach for it again because it just has a thing. So go for that. That's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to say is that I felt like there's a lot of plug-in, I don't know. I have I guess, maybe an obsession with plugins, but like I said, I think that they're little video game. I call them their little video games. You play it right, and you get a good result. And you win the game and get money. Well, in my case, I haven't gotten to that point yet. But the main thing that I'm illustrating in this video, where I'm rambling, is just that in looking at EQ plugins, you're gonna find that they all do something a little bit differently, and they're gonna be useful in some cases and not useful in other cases. And there's a likelihood, or that you'll find that they accomplish a goal faster, and when you want to do that, that's the main thing. You want to be able to you want to be able to accomplish your goal more quickly than not. And in the process of doing so, it does go back to knowing your tools, but I just think overlooking a potential new tool to your arsenal, I think is foolhardy if you can afford it, if it doesn't throw you out of, and then there's also the other thing of like, if you like something, then go for what you like. If this plugin, right? So let's see, if this plugin, it's pretty, it's got a nice GUI, you can, look at that. It's just a nice GUI, right? If it makes you reach for it, then why not? If it's got the nice colors and you get a good feeling from it, it's going to motivate you. It's going to be a part of your workflow. Mixing with your eyeballs is not good, for sure. You want to mix with your ears. You want to hear what's happening. But at the same time, if you're motivated to, if a plugin is motivating you because it sounds good, right? Now, I got to admit that I haven't necessarily I love the way that this plugin looks. It just looks cool, right? It just looks cool. And I know it sounds stupid, but I'm just going to admit to you that I think that it looks cool. I haven't been able to necessarily dial this thing in yet because I feel like the cue on them it's just like, it doesn't give me a good sound right off the bat. I got to massage it in and I got to figure out how, when I work with it, how can I get it to do the things that I'm hearing? So, which is, I think, instructive too, because then you start to kind of think about your workflow. Oh, well, maybe I need to do a thing or blah, blah, blah. So it's not I don't think it's a bad thing to go and look through these EQs and feel like, oh, hey, this EQ does a thing that I like, and or you're scrolling through, a plugin. What do they call those things? You're going through a plugin store. You go through a plugin store and you find oh man, like this plugin, it looks nice, right? I mean, maybe that's going to make you learn to use it. I still want to figure out how I can get this thing to do the things that I want it to do. So anyways, that's my time. Look at this pot. Did you see this? Like I think it's just what's happening here is I'm cooking. Look at all these plugins I put on. So it's cooking the CPU, and so I think I'm getting a bunch of just noise every time. So I feel like this is like scratchy pots. All right. Anyways, thanks for listening to my ramble. If you made it this far, you're a champ. And yeah, feel good about the EQs that you like and use them. And yeah, go software, go plugins. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Take care.